Welcome to Moving Beyond Record Hints. We will be talking about how to take those first steps into doing original research. This is part one of a three-part series. My name is Jenny Hansen, and I'm an accredited genealogist. Thanks for joining me today. RootsTech has asked me to remind you that the contents of this video and all thoughts, views, and opinions expressed are solely mine. I don't necessarily reflect any of the views of FamilySearch and RootsTech. So most of us begin our research based on work that somebody else completed. We may have a multi-generational pedigree chart. We may be working from user-submitted data on FamilySearch or from some other website. Record hints on varying websites give us a chance to start with our own research, but there's some fundamental concepts for doing original genealogical research that we really need to understand if we want to be effective in doing our own work. So this first part of this series is going to really focus on research readiness. I want to set you up for success so that you feel like you know what you're doing rather than just clicking links. Sometimes it might feel like there's an entire language that surrounds genealogy. So I thought that we might start out by reviewing some of these terms to help you feel like you have a base understanding before we get too deep into the details of how to do research. These will just be some high-level terms, but throughout the series I'm going to be introducing some other words and expanding on some of these, kind of on a need-to-know basis. This is a pedigree chart. I'm sure that you've all seen them before because family heritage is usually organized using a chart that's going to look something like this. I just happened to pull this one from FamilySearch to give you an example. Pedigree charts are a way to show direct line lineage. That means that I would show me, my parents, their parents, and so forth. We're not going to get to see the full family group on a pedigree chart. Like, there's nowhere for me to put my siblings on here. You just see the direct line of ancestors connecting. This is a family group sheet. The pedigree chart shows just one member of each generation, but a family group sheet shows that full family group. So I know the name makes it seem pretty obvious. This is just another sheet that I've pulled from FamilySearch. I use these all the time when I do my family research. In fact, I keep a stack of blank ones in my pile of research materials. I can fill in full information about everybody in a family. And when I have blank spaces, I know that that's a spot I need to work on. I know that it can be fun to just keep moving your family lineage back generation by generation, but I prefer to focus on a full family group. Once I have a full family group sheet completed, that's an indication that I'm ready to go on to the next generation. This is a research log. I really hope that everybody becomes really familiar with a research log. This is the way to track your research. You can see that this form has spots for you to add the date, the subject of your research, what sources you looked at, and what you found. So when I was new to research, I was pretty willy-nilly in my approach to looking at records. And pretty soon I started thinking I was looking at records that I thought I had already looked at. Well, keeping a research log is a really good way to stay organized and to be able to track your searches and your results. It can show you both the negative search results and the positive search results. This is just another sample that I pulled from FamilySearch, but a research log can take on a lot of different formats. When I'm doing my own work, I typically create a spreadsheet for each family group. So I track my research goals, the date that I was researching, the sources that I looked at, and my results. I keep a lot of detailed notes about what I did find and what I didn't find, and I make notes about what other sources that I also want to look at. So you can be as formal as you would like to be with a research log, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of keeping one and keeping track of your sources. So I showed you a pedigree chart, and those are so great for pushing our lines back in time. But I don't know about you, my ancestors don't really work in nice lines. They're more like this craggy tree that I have here. I have branches that are so intertwined. And I also have people that I'm really interested in knowing more about, but they kind of don't directly relate to me. They wouldn't fit anywhere on my pedigree chart, but these people would fall into a category that we could call collateral lineage or your collateral lines. Several decades ago in genealogy, the big push was to focus on having a 4-generation pedigree chart all filled out. Well, today we're more interested in that complete family group. So feel free to chase some of these indirect lines or your collateral lines for your family research. And I'm going to even let you in on a little secret. My personal favorite ancestor isn't even directly related to me. She's the first wife of one of my great-great-grandfathers, and she died without having any living heirs. I'm descended from the second wife of that man. I love researching my collateral lines because sometimes we find people that have these great stories in them, but they would just be skipped over really easily. We'll talk about home sources in a lot more detail in the next part of this series, but I just want to introduce the idea. Home sources are things that you have in your home or things that are quickly available to you that would tell you about your family. This could be anything from like an old family history that someone compiled, like those big long books that are in no usable shape at all, or it could be stacks of photographs, even things like your grandma could be a home source because she knows stuff about your family that you don't know. Home sources are an essential part to learning and to telling our family history. Primary sources are records that were created at the time of an event. For an example, a birth record is created either right at the time of the birth or within just the first few days after the birth. The information is typically provided by somebody who was present at the time of the birth. Birth records are really reliable when it comes to the information like the date and the place of birth, the name of the parents, the name of the child. But other primary sources could include things like a marriage record, a death record. Sometimes we don't get birth or death records, but would have a christening record or a burial record included in church records. Those are all primary sources. Secondary sources are records that were created about an event after the event took place. Most records that we come across would fall into this category of being a secondary source. A really good example of a secondary source is a census record. Census records tell us the ages of everybody in a household, usually tells us the birthplace, their heritage, all of that stuff. However, this information is reliant upon the memory of the informant because it wasn't created right at the time that each child was born. Ages are notoriously incorrect on census records. Birthplaces can be super vague, like England. The information can be given by an unreliable source as well. It was just whoever happened to be home and available at the time that the census taker came knocking at the door. We're always happy to see our ancestors included on records, but sometimes the information on that record has to be accepted with a little bit of wiggle room. So consider the reason a record was created, and you might understand why there could be flaws in that data. Some other secondary sources would include things like obituaries, which famously try to glorify a person, a local history, which also might be written to glorify a person, published or unpublished family histories, land records, wills, probate records, military records, court records, all of these different sources that are ways to build up a story about a person, but the information in there was created after the event took place. So in other parts of this series, you'll see some examples of these different kinds of records. That will help explain why we even care about them, and it will help you to determine what type of record is best and what we're looking for anyway. With that background on some of the genealogical words, let's move on to some basics about research. I'm willing to guess most of us watching have used FamilySearch at some point in time. There's so many great tools included in that free website. I use it all the time, and I fear that most people miss out on what I think are the best parts of the site. So let's start somewhere familiar when we're looking at FamilySearch. At the front page, right along the top, we have all these options to search trees as well as a lot of other things. When you choose that option for the tree, you'll see a great view of your personal family tree as it's been compiled by FamilySearch and other users. The record hints will help you to add information and sources to your ancestors' entries. I'm not going to explain too much more about the tree view. I think it's pretty elementary, and if you're brand new to family history, there's a lot of classes available through RootsTech that will help you learn how to navigate this page if you're totally new. So let's look at some of the amazing other features that are built into FamilySearch. Back on the main FamilySearch page, you can see the Search tab. And when I click on it, I have several other choices in that drop-down menu. The bottom option is for the Research Wiki. I want you to know about the wiki because it's so great. Let's take a quick peek at what it has to offer. The Research Wiki is a selection of research guides for every country in the world. It also has guides for most of the record types and most world events that shaped records for our ancestors. So as you can see from this page, there's over 90,000 articles to learn from. You can search for a locality or for a specific topic. The pages are all authored by users and many are compiled by leading experts. This is a perfect place to go anytime you're trying something new for your genealogy skills. I'm a professional, but I still use these pages every time I sit down to do research. Let me show you a few examples of some of the great information that's contained within the wiki. So pretend that I have some German ancestors and I'm ready to start working in Germany, but I've never done German research before. I can come to this page for Germany and see all these great articles and topics specific to German research. As I scroll down the page, I can also see lots of links that will help me get started. There's research tools that include maps, different word lists for translation helps, handwriting tutorials, and more. Every country in the world has a page like this, although some of them aren't going to be as complete. I have a lot of Danish ancestry. Anytime I do research in Denmark, I'm using resources that are linked on this page. I love the calendar tools and the maps. Even as a beginner, the wiki pages are a great source to help you get going in a new area. Here's the page for Mexico. It has similar resources to what we saw for both Germany and for Denmark. You have language helps, research guides, links to online record groups. If I were starting my research here, I would be very excited to use this page. While it appears here in English, there's also some translation options. At the bottom of that left sidebar, it's not visible in this screenshot, but you'll find links to the other languages. And not only can you translate the page, but you can also search different language-based wikis. There are wikis in 10 languages other than English. There's even a wiki series that will teach you how to start doing your research. So if you're brand new to genealogy, this is an excellent place to start working. This series will provide step-by-step instructions for how to approach research. To find these lessons, just look for that Research Resources link. It's really tiny, but in that left corner, I've got a big yellow arrow pointing to it. How many of you have been working on a tree in FamilySearch only to find that somebody has gone in and changed your work? This happened to me 2 days ago. It's so frustrating. I want to see what I've worked on, and I want to keep a copy of that nobody else can change. Having your personal copy of your tree and your research is a must. There's so many commercially based tree products that are available. Most of them have the same basic features where they can give you a good pedigree chart and a family group sheet and can print the basics for you. Well, the differences in the programs kind of fall in the details of how those different features work and how things are displayed for you. This is not a comprehensive list by any means, but some of the most common software options for your personal tree include things like Ancestral Quest, Family Historian, Family Tree Maker, Legacy Family Tree, the Master Genealogist, Reunion, Roots Magic. I mean, the list just keeps going on. So look for demos throughout the RootsTech experience so that you can see what options might fit your needs the best. You'll be ready to start doing research and finding records on your own once you have a copy of your tree that you can manipulate on your own. We've reviewed the meanings behind some of the genealogy words that we hear all the time. Hopefully that helps you feel more prepared to jump feet first into this fun new world of genealogy. We looked at the FamilySearch Research Wiki to show you some different learning tools for specific areas in the world. We've also talked about why you would want your own personal software program to manage your family tree. Thanks for joining me for this first part of learning how to move beyond record hints. My name is Jenny Hansen, and I hope that you will join me for part 2 of the series.